This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. I feel as though I was channeling my inner Stephen Fry there for a second. I'm not, unfortunately, however, Stephen Fry, although I do feel as though having him as a guest presenter would be extraordinary. Unfortunately, you are stuck with the three of us taking you on your live safari experience. A very good morning to all of you. My name is Jamie, and Manu is back on camera with me, one-eyed, and all the better for it, I suppose. You're okay there, Manu?
Aye, aye, Captain.
Aye, aye, Captain. Marvellous. Manu's eye is slightly swollen, but nevertheless functional, so we will excuse him any errors. We can blame it on his eye. Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya, where the dawn is just breaking, and the sky looks as though somebody mixed a whole load of different paints across a canvas. It is absolutely stunning. It is a chilly, what is it again? 13 and 53 or something? No? Forgotten already. It's cold. I mean, for us it's relatively chilly, but temperate here in the Mara, where we are very close. Kirsty can't believe that I forgot already. Listen here. It's been... my brain is scrambled eggs at the moment. So it is a chilly morning, but the normal sort of temperature. We're close to the equator here in the Masai Mara, but we are very high in altitude. So around about 2,000 meters where I'm sitting at present, above sea level. It is marvelous to have you all. If you have just discovered this live safari stream, you will be joined by another guide in South Africa. And if you would like to send through your well wishes to Manu, which apparently many of you have been doing, Manu, there you go. He says thank you kindly. You can do that on hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, alternatively in the comments section of YouTube. That is also how you can send through questions. My favorite thing about the Masai Mara? Layers. Different colors for different mountain ranges. The layers will get even more prominent. James Richard, I know, don't you stress. So we've just been debating what I do this morning, because the Jackal Den is about as opposite to the end of the world as it could possibly be to where I was planning on going. The Jackal Den is, we can actually show you from where, I know, if we look at that balloon that's just taken off from Governor's, or is about to, that is roughly where the Jackal Den is. Waffles, on the other hand, is if we go all the way to the right, past Serena, still going, there, she's behind that little hillock there. So here's my plan, James. Because I am absolutely in love with so many different baby animals, we're going to check the unicorn this morning, because it's the morning, and she's most likely to have given birth. For those of you that don't know what I mean, I'm talking about an antelope with one horn who is very heavily pregnant. Then we will pop into Waffles. Then, this afternoon on the Sunset Safari, we will go back to the Jackal Den, I promise. It's a tricky one to decide. I'm sorry, I have to balance all equations. I have 2 mornings left, and Waffles might not be here tomorrow morning. So, let's go down to the bottom of the hill, join Mr. Leo Smith, who is enjoying the beauty of the morning with an elephant.
Good morning, and isn't that an absolutely exquisite sight this morning? An elephant bull under a balanites tree. He was shaking it a second ago. We're hoping he does it again. Achoo! That, of course, was not me taking a picture. That was me sneezing. Good morning. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Archie on camera, and welcome to another magical Mara morning. Remember, this is 100% live. If you have any questions, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or just pop your question in the YouTube feed. Now, let's go back. Let's hope he shakes that tree again. Come on. See, he's now feeding off all the seeds he's already managed to put down. We've got another lovely big bull, but he's not quite in the sunrise. So, but he looks like he's going to shake this tree after the Balanite seeds. Here we go. It's quite often incredible. Oh no, he's just going to walk past it. Of course he's going to prove me wrong. Maybe he will go to the next tree. Now these big boys we find down here in the morning are often in our camp at night, and we can hear them rumbling around our tents quite regularly. That is one of the joys of living out in the African bush, being able to share our home with these incredible creatures. There's a second bull coming to join. Look, he's rubbing his bum. He's got an itchy bottom. Oh, that's good. Is that good, Big Ellie? Is that good? That Ellie having the best time. Having a good scratch. Carol's wondering, can an elephant knock down a Balanites tree? It is possible, but a lot of these trees are too big. Some of the smaller ones, yes, but I think a big bull, if you really decided to, would be able to knock down a Balanites tree. That is just too stunning for words. As the sun gets a bit lighter. This is definitely a wonderful way to start the morning. Beautiful. Good morning, Morning Glory. Morning Glory would like to know, do we have any updates on the hyena with the snare from yesterday? Not just yet. As soon as I do, I will let you know. Yesterday, unfortunately, the vet was very far away on the other side of the Mara. So, hopefully, she doesn't move too far away from the den. I couldn't see if she was suckling yesterday, but hopefully she is, which means she'll spend quite a bit of time at the den. And we'll be able to find her again. But the guys will be trying to monitor. Oh, look at that. Magic! Definitely a good way to have your cup of tea in the morning with elephants and sunrises. Wow, that is stunning. Now JD is wondering what would happen if we came across elephants at night. Well, it all depends on the situation, JD, where the elephants are. Here we find that the elephants, when they're in the park, are actually very, very relaxed. But when we find them outside of the park, in the community areas, sometimes they can be a little bit jumpy. But as a general rule, There, you just treat them as you would during the day. Oh, that's stunning. Oh, look at that light. We have a comment from James Henry, who's obviously still in final control, waiting to head out on bushwalk. He says this picture is attractive. It is a very attractive picture. Elephant sunrises. James Henry would like to know why I bought a camera without a silent shutter. Well, James, unfortunately for me, apart from my equipment that got liberated, the rest of my lenses are all still made for cameras without silent shutters. And I don't know, I like the weight of my camera. It also, I think, shoots faster than yours, James, although I'm probably going to be corrected at the moment. Well, let us see what James Henry has to say, but oh, that is beautiful. Oh, yeah. Some birds flying past. James says speed isn't everything, but size is. Well, James, I disagree with cameras. I think speed is everything, and speed and good glass. Now the reason for that is that the faster your camera can operate, the more likely, or more frames per second, the more likely you are to get that, particularly when it comes to sort of an action shot. And I get very frustrated with slow cameras and slow focusing cameras. But one day, when the mirrorless technology catches up, I might go for a small camera like yours, James. But for now, I'll stick to my slightly weighty ones. And unfortunately, my brand's mirrorless is not nearly as good as its normal bodies. Whereas James's brand, their mirrorless, is superior. Nicole is asking, are elephants ticklish? Well, I've never tickled an elephant, so I wouldn't know. I would guess they have ticklish spots like most animals. Look at that, it's just too wonderful. And you might hear a car coming through. I think it's the Rangers. It is not, it is balloons. Well, balloon people. Boom, bye. Apparently Jamie is shocked I have never tried to tickle an elephant. Well, I suppose I've tickled a sedated elephant, so there was no fear for repercussion when we've done some darting and moving and laparoscopic vasectomies on elephants. Quite excited, so early next year we're going to be, well, my dad and them are going to be catching some elephants and moving them onto the reserve he lives on, so hopefully I'll be able to join them for that. Oh, it is so nice to just start a morning peacefully with Ellies like this. Okay, so we're going to keep moving, and as the Ellies carry on their breakfast, in the meantime we're going to send you to Jamie, who's heading down to the south.
Right, so I'm pretty sure I put enough distance between Brent and myself that I can actually take the route I was going to take and be ahead of him. We had a discussion this morning about where we were going to go, and I said I've got to choose between the jackal and... Thank you, James. Apparently James is in there tormenting the final control ladies and is pressing buttons, as many buttons as he possibly can. And I'm now Stefan Winterboer. There are worse people I could be. I'm okay with that. And take the image of the great Stefan Winterboer. I only hope I can do it justice. I can't believe you're letting him near anything. It's obviously not light enough yet for James to go out on bushwalk, which I'm sure the FC girls are... I was about to say really hoping it is, but Kirsty tells me she's now chased him out. Okay, alright, I promise I'll slow down in a sec. I'm just trying to beat Brent along this road. I have to go this way. I don't have a choice. It's where the one-horned topi lives. So we're racing for now, and then if I spot something, I promise I'll stop. I gave him multiple other suggestions. He just wants to be on this road. So do I. It's one of the best roads to drive on. There's usually quite a bit... Whoa, go around the corner on two wheels. I'm not obviously doing that. There's usually quite a bit for us to see and talk about. Once we get past the section of grassland that comes down from the escarpment, you get to the swampy areas, the marshy areas, and that's the areas that the animals love. And I can actually see some giraffe up ahead. So let's see if we can imitate Brent's elephant sighting and get them silhouetted up against the sun, because that did look very beautiful. I just didn't stay to enjoy it because I wanted to duck around him. Only I didn't crash into him like he did with Taylor. I did nearly tip the car though. It was a much sharper angle than I was expecting. I'm speeding up so we can get to those giraffe before the sun reaches high noon. It's the one thing about I zeroed my odometer when I filled up the car on, what day is today? Today's Saturday. On Wednesday. I've done 559 kilometers since Wednesday. And that's not much. That's pretty far. And in fact, I need to zero again because I filled up yesterday. But that is not focusing on, say, the Sausage Tree Pride all the way down at Kishanga or Kekenya or any of those animals that are much further away. That's just back and forth from North Clan and the river. Oh, we got lots of giraffe. An entire journey waiting patiently for us to join them. Sarah, I thought when I first started to hear that question, I thought you were going to say what's the first thing you're going to do when you get to South Africa. And I was going to say, give my mother and brother a big hug and immediately go to the 24-hour McDonald's. But when I get back to Djuma, I don't know. You know what? The first thing I'm probably going to do when I get back to Djuma is going to be, I'm probably going to build a screen for the door of our room, so that during the heat, and it is going to be very hot, it's already very hot there, during the heat we can actually sleep with the door open without Hosanna coming wandering in. That's probably going to be the first thing that I do. We've got to be sensible about it. It's not a fantastic habit that he's developed. Hello, giraffe. Oh, where to look. Beautiful. Oh, I'm going to park in the middle of the road so Brent can't overtake me. Probably going to come back to bite me because it won't be him. But anyway. After that, I'm going to hug a jackalberry tree, a marula tree, and a leadwood tree in no particular order. Oh, and probably say hello to all the other people there that I haven't seen in ages as well. That's probably quite high up on the list. Then we're going to go looking for a hyena den, and I want to see Hosana, and Tundi, and Tlalamba. Did that just happen? Manu, did that just happen? A bird just flew into the car, fluttered around behind Manu's head, and then flew away again. How did that just happen? Okay, alright, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to accept that as part of the norm of our strange everyday lives. So we've got a journey of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 giraffe. A really quite stunning scene in the morning light. We're not going to manage to be able to backlight them because they're all on the western side of the road. That one's got a lovely long tail. So Maasai giraffe, oh, excuse me, different species to the one that we will see on Juma, and definitely very. Now that the cover's flapping, it's making me nervous. I feel like there's another bird in here. Different species to the ones that we will see on Juma, and very, very beautiful. Their spots look like crackled paint or perhaps dried mud. Really, really pretty. Oh, an itchy nose or an itchy ankle. And giraffe surprisingly flexible for an animal that basically walks on stilts. Can't work out there if she was trying to scratch her nose or her ankle. Oh dear, Kelly. Yes, I do seem to be on something of a baby run recently with baby animals. Is one of these giraffe pregnant? Hang on, let me move a little bit and then I'll be able to get a better view of their bellies. Probably one of them is pregnant. You're not. You're a little boy. That one is definitely not pregnant. That one I didn't even see. I didn't even notice. I'm just going to wait for him. I think he wants to go across the road. I don't want to block him. So it would be difficult to tell if any of these females were in the early stages, of course, because they won't be showing any signs yet. I don't actually see a pregnant one, now that I'm sitting looking. Not one of these females looks pregnant to me. At least not very pregnant. There's quite a few youngsters. So it could be that they've all recently had, well, I say recently, in the last few months they've all had calves. It's very common to see a herd of giraffe like this gathered together, and then they'll split up. And then they'll come back together, they'll meet up again, or 2 will stay together, or 3 will stay together. There's no set herd structure with giraffe, no set social structure. They're essentially quite happy to continue on as they see fit. Maybe it's definitely a female. For our newer viewers, if you're trying to figure out if you're dealing with a female or a male, obviously the easiest way is to look between the legs, but sometimes you don't get that opportunity, and so that she might be the one on the left. Sorry, that one might be. She looks like she might be. Definitely not the roundest giraffe, though, that I've seen. The other way to tell whether you're looking at a male or a female giraffe is to look at the ossicones on the top of the head. That's basically their horns. The only difference between ossicones and horns, really, is that giraffe are born with them. So they're born with them, they lie flat against their heads, and quite quickly after birth, they actually sort of stand up upright and solidify or calcify into bone. I think she might be pregnant. Honestly, she is a big female. It's quite hard to tell. Okay. As these giraffe wander off, the good news is, and it's really good news for the ladies of Final Control, is that it's finally light enough for James to be out on foot, and this time he can't push any buttons.
Well, I can't push any physical buttons, but I suppose I could push some emotional buttons, couldn't I? Good morning and welcome to this end of the Sunrise Safari. Unlikely to have a sunrise here in the Western Kruger National Park, as a large cold front has moved over the land and apparently is going to dump some rain on us today, which will be very nice indeed for the grass and indeed this nyala that you're looking at the moment. Please talk to us, of course, using the hashtag SafariLive and the chat stream on YouTube. We'd love to have your questions and your comments. We've just left the camp, and in fact we're just outside of the workshop where the vehicles are fixed. Well, sort of fixed. We have our tyres fixed there as well. And this nyala has totally habituated to the presence of human beings because of his proximity to the camp. Now, especially this time of the year, nyala, bushbuck, those two animals, and sometimes duiker, but mostly just the nyala and bushbuck, come towards human camps because, of course, they are wetter places than much of the rest of the bush. There are watered gardens and, well, I guess seepage from human plumbing around the place, which makes the vegetation a bit greener. And so you'll find nyala and bushbuck close to human habitation as the dry season really gets going. And quite unlike any of the other antelope here, they habituate to people very nicely. I wouldn't want to corner one of these fellows because he could do some serious damage, but that's a 220-pound, 100-kilogram nyala bull, and he is completely comfortable with our presence here. You can see, if you look carefully, because we are so close to him, you can see that his ribs are showing, and you can see that his hips are showing. So, well, I mean, that's pretty normal for this time of the dry season, but you can see that it is a little bit of a difficult time for him. Now, I mean, I almost feel like I could walk up to him and find out what he's eating by asking him, but I think he's eating dry leaves. A few bits of dry leaves. Ivy, you say that I'm the Impala whisperer, so that I could probably go up there and just ask him. Impala speak a different language from Nyala, Ivy. They speak a different dialect, and I don't know the Nyala dialect yet. I am learning it, though, with the aid of an app. He's being very selective. He's picking very specific leaves. I can't tell what species they are. Unfortunately, the sight of the immense figure of David Eastaugh on camera drove him to a frenzy of terror, and he took 2 steps back. David's been working out in the gym, you see. He didn't used to be nearly quite so terrifying when he arrived here 2.5 years ago. Now, however, it's like being walked upon by Conan the Barbarian. Isn't this a magnificent creature? I don't mean David, I mean the nyala. Our plan today is, as ever, going to be to seek out one of our leopard characters, I think, on foot. We had the most phenomenal bushwalk yesterday. We had lions, we had leopard, we had wild dog, we had elephant. I don't think we're going to repeat that. I'm not sure we'll ever repeat that. But as long as we don't expect it, we shan't be disappointed. So this has been a wonderful nyala sighting, and I think we'll probably start heading up onto the clearings outside of camp now. Mr. Nyala, you and your girlfriends, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful morning. No, Armand, I do not want to be stabbed by that nyala. I'm pretty sure that nobody I know would like to be stabbed by a nyala. And I've seen them use those horns. He looks pretty slow and ponderous now, but let me tell you, when he gets going with those horns, it's a frightening and astonishing sight. I've never seen him bring them to bear on a human being, thankfully. Right, let's move on. If I haven't ever introduced you to him before, up front you can see the magnificent example of humanity that is Herbert Causa. He is going to be searching out the tracks for us, waving, smiling generally, and patiently dealing with me for the next 2.5 hours or so. I didn't hear any movement around camp in the night. So I didn't hear Tingana calling or the lions calling, and the lions, I think, have probably headed up north into the property north of us. We followed them on the hunt yesterday evening towards the end of drive, and I think they were on the trail of a herd of buffalo. So I suspect the buffalo had a torrid time yesterday evening, unfortunately north of the reserve that we're on. Sean, the reason that we carry a torch at night is so that when something does hit you in the evening, you know what it was, so that you know what has killed you. It's always quite I think it's an important thing for a human being to know. I mean, can you imagine not knowing what had killed you? You were just walking along, blundering about in the darkness, and something whacks you. Could be a leopard, could have been a lion, could have been a buffalo, a hippo. At least with a torch you can see, it's a buffalo. You know. So that's why we carry a torch. That's obviously rubbish. That's not why we carry a torch. The most obvious answer, Sean, is that you can then see. It's got to be a powerful torch. You can see what there is, and you can make sure that you don't approach whatever it is, and you can back away safely. The other reason is that if you blunder around, if you're walking around like this and you can't see... Herbert's just told us to shut up and stop. You can hear Monkey's alarm calling somewhere around probably around Treehouse Dam. We'll go that way. If you can imagine walking around in your home in the darkness now, with no lights on, you're going to trip over.
Oh, good morning, good morning. Again, sorry about the gremlins, and you're back with us in the Mara. Now, for the last couple of days, Archie and I have been charging down the escarpment road, and it's been incredibly quiet along there. So this morning we've decided to take the river road, do a little bit of birding, see what we can find. Just as a general rule, the escarpment can be very, very productive, but at the moment with the migration a bit further south, on the sort of first 15 kilometers, the river road is definitely more productive, especially early in the morning. As I say that though, we haven't seen anything since our helis and the giraffe Jamie saw. But there's always a chance for anything down here, really. Now, of course, during these quiet sections, while we're trying to get to where all the action is, I like to play games. And it's normally a quiz, as you know, and this morning shall be no different, as we will start with a geography quiz. Aha! What is the most northern mountain range in Africa? Hashtag SafariLive, if you know the answer. What is the most northern mountain range in Africa? Hashtag SafariLive. Now, it's quite surprising. Normally there's some waterbuck around here, at least a lone Tommy or two, or a late hippo. Oh wait, I said a late hippo. I've spotted a late hippo. Let's just get into position. And the waterbuck. Oh, yay. There we go. As I said, quite often at this time in the morning you might find a late hippo, and it's always quite nice to see hippos out of the water. It just shows you how absolutely massive they truly are. So this guy's obviously too hungry to be back before first light. And these crisp, cold mornings, the hippos will stay out for a bit longer. Well, Bad Monkey is already on it very quickly and has said the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. And that is 100% correct. Oof, dear, I'm going to have to make them a bit harder. So Actually, what is that an oxpecker? It is an oxpecker on its leg. Of course, one of the most fearsome creatures in Africa, far more fearsome than lions and elephants. There we go. What have we got? Red-billed. Oh, that's nice. We see a lot more yellow-billed oxpeckers here than red-billed, so it's always nice to see a red-billed oxpecker. Now, I wonder if you guys can tell me, is this a boy or a girl hippo? Hashtag SafariLive. Is this a male or female hippo? Massive subcutaneous fat deposits. They need to eat a lot. 40-50 kilograms. Obviously, this one, I nearly gave away what it was, a boy or a girl. Didn't get all it needed last night. Oh, there's a hummerkop there as well. Don't take advantage of the insects disturbed by the feeding hippo. Massive creatures. Well done, Michelle. You are spot on. It is indeed a male hippo. Quite a lot bigger than a female hippo. This looks to be a youngish male. You can see some of the battle scars on him, but he hasn't probably started challenging for territory just yet. Let's get a bit closer. Now, always when I approach something like this, you never know how they're going to react. So that's why I stop quite far away, watch its behavior, and then decide whether we should go closer or not. Now, with hippos, like with rhinos and elephants, one of the most important telltale signs is their tail. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Yes, I'm sorry. Don't get grumpy with me. Let's go a bit further forward. So that was just a little threat display saying, careful, I am dangerous, but back to grazing now. And you can see the waterbuck in the background. Now, again, as I say, you've got to watch their body language quite carefully, because sometimes they change their minds and decide, actually, I'm not as comfortable as I was. So I can hear. There we go, I've got my comms back. Oh dear, that's what happened. It got hooked on the radio. Off, yes, you're very scary. So when he gets to the road, he might just sprint. But it looks... I know why he's also getting a bit upset. There's a balloon coming overhead. Okay, well, let's send you back to James.
Was that predators pick up on vulnerability, and if you can't see at night, they can tell very quickly. They will generally not approach if you shine a light in their faces. And while I wouldn't go walking around the bush at night with a torch, no matter how powerful, in camp it really is an important safety measure. That is very pretty. Cal 6, I don't know how Scoobert is this morning. I haven't seen Scoobert this morning. Yesterday he featured heavily on the dam cam, so he was absolutely fine. I'm not sure if he's been seen yet on the dam cam today. Kirsten says not yet, so hopefully the dam cam will find Scoobert. As I said yesterday, he really has a small chance of making it to fledging. Fledging happens at about 40 days of age, and that means basically he can take off for the first time and therefore avoid predators much more effectively. 26% of baby blacksmith lapwings make it to the 40-day mark, which of course is not enormously, impressive from a statistical point of view. So I hope that young Scoobert makes it all the way to his 40th day. Now we've got some ground hornbills shouting here over the top of the clearings. And Herberto says they are close. They certainly sound like they're close. It sounds like the tuba section of a large orchestra warming up. Doesn't it, David? Yes. David is a fan of the tuba. He's not, I don't think he's... You prefer the trombone, that's very nice. All right, we'll quickly see if we can find these ground hornbills while you go back across to Jamie, who inevitably has found yet another hyena.
I'll tell you something. We've come to the area of the one-horned topee, but this would not be a good time to give birth because half of North Clan is in the road in front of me. Just want to see what they're up to because I can see some of the cubs. Oh, sorry, you silly thing. It's running now, but in a very, very lazy way. Now, yesterday when we saw North Clan, they'd killed a buffalo, or stolen a buffalo, I suppose, is a possibility. But they'd killed a buffalo, and we're all gathered together with enormous bellies. Now we've got a lot here. Hi, guys. What have you been up to? I'm really hoping some of the older cubs are here. My goodness, there's a lot of hyenas. Everywhere I look, I can see a hyena. Hello, Noel. One of them couldn't even get up the bank. She was so fat. Oh, looks like Soup's here. There's definitely cubs. Slightly bloody-faced cubs. Just listen. There's Soup. Eating something. Oh no. You guys catch a baby topee? Looks awfully like you did. Oh well, there's a certain inevitability to that. We've been expecting that for a long time. Let me just go a little bit closer. Kirsty says, no, Warren. So Soup is here. Then there's a dominant individual, or an individual being dominant over her, which must be one of Waffles' sons. Oh dear, it's a baby topee. Almost certainly. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, it was inevitable. This was not a good place to have a topee maternity ward. No, it's not. It's a wildebeest. Okay, never mind. Crisis averted. It's one wildebeest, and Soup is trying to remove it from everyone else, which means that Lobster and Chow must be here with enormous, enormous bellies. 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 Kirsty says, yay, Warren. So Warren is fine. That is not a baby topee. So there we go. The hyena standing over it, for those of you that are unfamiliar with how this all works. Her name is Soup. Her name is not actually Soup, I have to tell you. That is the shortened version that we use. She is named after a minor Seinfeld character. However, we have decided to shorten it to Soup. So that is Soup over there. She's the granddaughter of the matriarch, as well as her two cubs who are... I can't actually even see which ones they are. I think they've gone to sleep. I think one of them is... no, that's not one. Oh, look at the bellies on these hyenas. Has it been a good day, guys? You caught a wildebeest. How did it... Why did you catch a wildebeest here, of all places, when over there, not too far away, and still within North Clan territory, is the entire portion of the migration? It's a bit weird. Unexpected, certainly. I guess they obviously got lucky. Oh, it's most likely that they hunted this wildebeest themselves. In fact, I would say it's almost certain that they did. Kel6, I suspect that Waffles has already been and gone. So yes, I think she would have got some wildebeest. I think she probably came here, ate the best part of it, and then departed and went back to her cubs. She's probably just made her way back to her cubs as we speak. This is not an old kill. This is quite a fresh kill. This was probably made in the early hours of this morning. Once again, we shake our fists at our timing, because we could have left at 5 o'clock this morning, we just didn't. But the thing is I wouldn't have come this way, I don't think. Or would I? I don't know. Hindsight is always 20/20. But yes, I think Waffles would have had a meal. This probably wasn't... Shame. The poor males. They really don't get a good deal all the time. Bye! Thanks for coming. You're not having any wildebeest, I'm afraid. Bye-bye! Shame. So determined. Oh, listen. I don't know if you can hear that over the sound of vehicles. They're making their alarm call. No, sorry about that. Soup is off. She has got her wildebeest prize, and she's taken it to... some shade. I wondered where she was going with that, because her cubs are no longer in a den site. They are, at this point, pretty much graduated from the den. I was wondering where she was going to take it. Though, no, there's the migration over there. So the migration is not out of the Mara yet. The vast majority seems to be in the triangle, which is where we are at the moment. Most of them on the burn, but not all. So, no, there's the migration over there, or at least a portion of the Great Migration. A herd of probably 3,000, 4,000 or so. We throw those numbers out with a complete lack of accuracy. It's really just a guess. Alright, are you back again? Curried favour. And now coming back. These hyena are absolutely enormous. Even that individual trying to sneak his way in. All nerves and backwards ears, listening intently just in case. Okay, so, I mean, I don't know that we're relieved it wasn't a baby topi, because some poor baby wildebeest lost its life. But it's a good meal for North Clan. They've been phenomenally successful. Bex, there you go. You said hashtag wildebeest lives matter. They do. Of course they do. They do indeed. Unfortunately, during this time of year, they do form a basically staple portion of most predators' diets. There are so many of them that it is statistically more likely that it's going to be a wildebeest kill rather than, say, another animal species. I did think it was going to be a baby topi simply because, well, they've all been giving birth around this area, but they're obviously slightly quicker off the mark. Of course wildebeest lives matter, but so do hyena lives, and they were they weren't hungry. But they will go hungry in the months to come, so they might as well take full advantage of the opportunities presented to them. There's just hyenas everywhere. This is how they're hunting. They're chasing the animals into these... Basically, if we were to try and drive off-road here, we would just sink. It is deep, deep mud. And as soon as they chase something in here, hyena are better at keeping their footing. Yes, exactly. Culbert, that's exactly what they will do. They'll separate a wildebeest from the herd. In this case, it was a youngster. They will wear it down, and then they will wait for an opportunity for that wildebeest to make a mistake. And again, most of the time they won't be successful, but they just keep trying. They persist. And they chase the wildebeest round and round and round and round until eventually it slips and falls in the mud. And that's when they are able to take advantage of that mistake. So yes, absolutely. Are those hyenas on the road coming or going? Coming. Wow. Waddle, 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 waddle. Shame you can really see the male who hasn't had a chance to get anything, compared to the enormous bellies of some of the females. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it is, when I say male, it's because it is a male that has immigrated into the clan. That wildebeest is going to be done very soon. It is actually essentially done. There's just a bit of rib and some skin left in the head. It will be done in the next few hours or so. It actually does depend upon Soup, though. Soup might decide that she's going to keep it all to herself. She's the highest ranking female after Waffles that we know of, because we don't know the sex of Waffles as cubs. So if she decides to keep it to herself, it could actually last until the end of the day. She'll share it with her 2-year-old cubs. 2-year-old cubs. Not 2-year-old cubs, 2-year-old cubs. Lobster and Chow. Although Lobster was given another name. Not another name, but she goes by her second name in a series that's going to come out about the two of them. She goes by Bisque. It's her stage name. I stick with Lobster. Look at the waddler at the back. I'm sorry, I know we should be watching the ones eating, but the one at the... is the happiest cub in the world. Waddle, 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 waddle. He must have gone to lie down in some mud to cool off after all of the excitement. Or possibly was involved in the chase slightly. Oh, that is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Are you cute? Sort of. I think you're cute. I'm not really sure. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Shh, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone what I did. I think that might be one of Soup's too, but I can't really tell. Looks very dominant. It's got its tail bristling. But it's just so covered in muck. Here's the alarm call again. Alright. Sorry everyone. We're going to have to move. You can see how frightened the hyenas are, and they are a little bit scared of the vehicle that's behind me. It's okay guys, it's only me. They don't mind me. There goes Soup. Soup with her prize. We appear to have attracted some attention. This is very rare with hyenas. Oh, Carl 6, it's really difficult to say which clan is the most successful. Oh, it suddenly got very heavy. I suppose it depends on whichever clan is close to the migration. I would say that the Salt Lake clan probably has the best time of things. Oh, is that better, Soup? Oh, can have a drink. Help wash down that enormous belly of wildebeest. The Salt Lake clan probably does quite well because most years the migration will come to the wildebeest. I mean, the wildebeest will come to the Salt Lake. I'm distracted by this vehicle behind me. You've got space, my friend. I cannot go any further off to the left without mooring myself in mud. There's Lobster and Chow next to Soup. But it's hard to really say which clan would be the most successful. I'm so used to having the hyenas to myself, Manu. It's such a lovely scene. I mean, apart from the mangled wildebeest, it's a lovely scene. I'm going to do some dodgem cars just to get around to find us a way out of everyone else's way. James doesn't have that problem. He is a pedestrian today.
I'm a pedestrian. I don't need to go around anything because we're the only people out here today, which is fantastic. We found tracks of Hosanna, the male leopard, 2.5 years old. We found tracks of Tlalamba, female leopard, 10 months old. We found tracks of Tundi, female leopard, 12 years old, all around here. And so we'll try and figure out where they've gone, and then we'll attempt to find them. Hosanna's going this away. The other two are going that way. Herbert says he'd like to see a tree-climbing impala today, or duiker. Obviously he doesn't believe in such things. He means that he'd like to find something that would feed him for a few days. If I can find a decent track, I will show you. Cheryl, it's not very dangerous to go for runs in this area. We do it regularly, normally 3 or 4 times a week. You do have to be careful. I find that on the road, you often, you'll run just looking at your feet, and you can't do that here. You're guide training, though, so that when you do come across something, you know how to behave, how to react. But it's such an important part of living out here because it's very easy to become entirely sedentary. You can go for walks, I suppose, but it's very difficult for the people who don't have any field experience. And so some of the final control staff go running outside of the gate. They'll drive up to the gate and go running there. Aegis, no. If lions or leopards saw you running past, it wouldn't trigger necessarily an attack response. If you had a confrontation where they stood up out of the grass and you were watching them like this, and then you turned around and ran, then yes, it could easily provoke a response. Probably not from a leopard, but definitely from a lion, or quite possibly from a lion. If, however, there was a pride of lions lounging under this bush and we came jogging past on the road, what we're doing is not indicating fear or behaving like prey. We are just moving. Humans move on foot, whether they're running or they're walking, and they'd probably just watch us go past. I've no doubt in my mind I've often been watched by prides of lions and by leopards as we've gone running past. But it's very different from coming across a pride of lions. Pride of lions stands up, you turn, stand up, throw your stuff in the air and start running. That's very different from jogging past. Alright, we're going to try and figure out where these tracks are going. They're going all over the place right now. So let's see. I feel like I've done this 150 times in the last 2 days. Back to Jamie with some hyenas.
Fair enough. The more you do it, the better you get at it, I suppose. Meanwhile, North Clan is enjoying little scraps around their puddles and pulling the wildebeest back out. Soup's decided she's not interested in it. The good news is that one of the tourist vehicles just got stuck. I'm sure you'll all be happy to hear that it is out now. However, it is about to drive straight past the hyenas. There we go. The hyenas have decided they've had enough. They're moving it out of the water next to the road. It was a bit of a silly place to put it, I have to be honest with you. It wasn't your most sensible decision. There we go. Dragging it away. And it just shows how strong that cub is. An enormous belly, but still able to pull it away. Proud cat mama, I don't know if I would say that hyenas do have an advantage over lions necessarily. Each species, each apex predator has got their own set of advantages and disadvantages. Hyenas are smaller than lions and they often get killed by lions, but they have the advantage of numbers. I mean, a clan is between 50 and 70. A pride at most here in the Mara is going to be about 20 or so lions, So I would say that there's the advantage of numbers, but they're smaller in size. Lions spend a lot more time asleep because they need to conserve their energy. Hyenas are very energy efficient animals. They have a very strict hierarchy that isn't necessarily all that loving, whereas lions in a pride or even in a coalition have the support of the individuals around them, whereas with spotted hyenas that is really only given to close family and perhaps the friends that they have within the clan. So I don't know that I would necessarily say there is an advantage. The only thing that I will say is that hyena are treated with a complete lack of respect when it comes to tourist vehicles. If there is a lion walking on the road, that lion will be given space, vehicles will move off, allow it to move past them, it will give it. A hyena in the road will just be revved at until it moves, and most of the time it moves straight away. We're lucky in that hyenas are quite clever, so they're comfortable enough with vehicles to have learned from that sort of situation. Please, go ahead. Sure. Hi, guys. No problem. I have to leave. There are probably about 10 vehicles or so here, which there shouldn't really be. I'm going to go and look for our unicorn instead. Okay. While we do that, another popular area, of course, is the Mara River. Let's go and see what is happening there.
Well, we've got a small build-up of zebra around Main South Crossing. So I think we might have to put our patience pants on and see what happens. But the lovely thing about being at the river at this time of the morning is it's not only the animals that are here. Now, let's have a look. See that little swallow? Oh, just turned around. A little bit to the right. There we go. Now, here's one for our birders. Who can identify this beautiful little swallow? You can see it's been doing some morning preening. And some loose feathers about. Now, it's very nice to actually see a swallow sitting still. Normally, they're a bit of a problem to try film because they are flying around at high speed. But for now, this little swallow is sitting so nicely for us. Now, the diagnostics of that red cap is quite a good giveaway for a lot of people. If you're a birder and you want to try ID. Oh, and there we go. The swallow is taken to flight. Archie, quickly follow it. Come. Archie, why are you so slow? No, I'm only teasing Archie, of course. It is near impossible. Those little black spots that are flying at high speed there are swallows, which are near impossible. So Scott says that swallow is called George. I'm not sure how Scott came to that conclusion. Now, I heard another bird, but it seems to have disappeared. Where's it gone? And it's one we know quite well from the Sabi Sands, but there was a rattling Sesticula. You probably heard it calling while we were looking at the swallow. There's some buffalo bulls down here as well. Zebra look like they're not quite ready to cross just yet. But we're going to hang around this area, or maybe go down to Dusty Crossing, have a look around there. Now, I really like the birding in this area. We've seen some great birds in the last little while around here. Red cheeks cordon blurs, black flycatchers. So let's go keep cruising the river for now. We'll come back in a little bit to see if these zebra do come back down to the river. Oof, it's starting to warm up. Time to lose layer 1, the big jacket. It's quite nippy this morning. Well, before we go though, let me change the light for Archie. Well done, Fuzzman Sparkles. It is indeed a wire-tailed swallow. It looked like a juvenile. Let me just try to get the shade onto me so Archie doesn't have to struggle. There we go, here it comes. Oh, no, there. There we go. Looked like an immature white-tailed swallow. A wire-tailed swallow. Well done, Fuzzman Sparkles. Okay. I'm hoping we're going to find some more birds soon. There's a couple of birds that I definitely want to get on camera before I leave the Mara that I haven't managed to yet. I've seen them myself, and even in some cases photographed them, but we haven't managed to get them onto camera. But speaking of birds, James has got one that eats possibly other birds, I'm not sure.
Yes, it would eat other birds, but it's also a scavenger, which is of particular interest to us here, because we're on the tracks of leopard, and hopefully this tawny eagle has managed to spot a carcass somewhere around here that was killed by a leopard, and we will then view the leopard. Not so much the carcass, because, well, frankly, carcasses of any kind are not really as attractive as leopards in full vigour. Now, we were asked the other day how you tell if this is a tawny eagle versus something like a Wahlberg's eagle, and the answer is pretty simple once it sits still and doesn't fly away. Thank you. Thank you for that. Goodbye. I hope you eat nothing today. They have a, which you can't see there, a very obviously darker wing than the rest of the body. And that's how I knew immediately that that was a tawny eagle. Right, we're at Treehouse Dam. Let's pop down to the water's edge and see what we can see there. This is where we had all of our excitement yesterday. Leopard underneath a rock over there, lions up the drainage line here, and of course the wild dog that came to visit us from the eastern side, which was very special. We're also listening, of course, to see if we can hear anything in the way of alarm calls. There are quite a few of impala around here, and so the chances of there being a great number of predators are quite small. Trying to see if I can show you some impala. While we're sitting here, I suppose every so often we must probably show this tree in our shots, and you might wonder to yourself, why on earth does it look like somebody tried to build a tree house in there? The answer is because somebody tried to build a tree house in there. No, it wasn't a child. No, it was in fact to do with Mr. Graham Wallington, who of course is our CEO, Commander-in-Chief, utter madman. And his idea was to have a show here, basically, I think a little bit like Naked and Afraid in the Wild, or whatever that show is. It's called Naked and Afraid, I think. And basically, these people were going to live in this treehouse. They were going to sort of survive off the land around here, around Treehouse Dam. That's why it's called Treehouse Dam. The show almost made it to air, and I seem to remember that something on an immense, yeah, that's right, it was 9/11 actually, it was around then, and after 9/11 I forget why that affected whether or not it made it to air, but basically 9/11 happened, and that was one of the major reasons it never made it to air. So the treehouse fell apart, the naked people went home, put their clothes on, never to be heard of again. Probably a good thing, really. So what we've done now is we've come to the dam, obviously. The tracks of the leopard, we're following Hosanna, were coming across this way. We lost them in the block, so we wanted to check if they've come out on the road. We'll do a little loop around on the road, and if they don't come out, we'll go back into the block. That's the basic plan. Not holding out enormous hope after the luck we had yesterday. Very seldom happens 2 days in a row. Jamie, you say you heard lions killing a buffalo yesterday on the dam cam. I must confess I find that astounding. There are guys following the tracks of the lions, but as far as I understand it, they've crossed north into Buffelshoek. Now, I mean, I guess if it happened right on the border and the buffalo was really loud, yeah, maybe the microphone there would have picked it up. That's very interesting. And for those of you who are worried, Scoobert is alive. We'll get an update on the radio now about how the lion tracking is going. But there are 2 or 3 people tracking those lions from last night. So if they did kill a buffalo, we'll definitely hear about it, I'm sure. And James Richard, no update on the wild dogs. The last update I had was from Byron, who's doing a bit of guiding at a lodge quite close to here. He said he thought he heard all 3 of them kill something. He did have all 3 of them after we saw them, and he thought he heard them kill something quite close to our eastern boundary, but nobody saw them yesterday afternoon. I suspect they could easily have gone into Chitwa and possibly even further south of that. So I'm not sure. It was wonderful to see the dog on foot yesterday. They don't react very poorly. If we're not too close to them, they're actually very confiding. All right, we're going to keep trying our best to find some more tracks. Brent Leo Smith is on the Mara River. I've no doubt he's going to use the term murderous and magnificent now.
Welcome back. Well, we're still moving on the edge of the Mara River, trying to find ourselves some birds. As I say, I've had really good birding in this area, particularly this little area coming up. You can see it gets quite sticky here when it's wet. Ooh. What is that down there? Cole is asking, are there any large aggressive fish in the water? Yes, Cole, there are. There's a very big species of catfish called Clarinus charipus, or the sharp-toothed catfish, if you don't use scientific names. And it is they can get up to 200 pounds, and they're mostly scavengers, but they also will do our ambush predators. Now, something we haven't seen for quite a while, which has only popped up in the Mara in the last little while, is these little white flowers. And I want to see if anyone can remember what they are. Sometimes by the safari guides of the Masai Mara, they're called the toilet paper flower. And I think that's when they're trying to pretend that naughty people haven't left toilet paper out in the bush. But they can, especially on short grasses, they can actually cover an area, and they're quite interesting. So nickname is a toilet paper flower. It is not its real name. Now let's see if anyone can remember what it is from last season when they were all about. And it's, as I said, it's a very interesting flower, but I'm going to go into more depth when someone guesses it correctly. Hello, topies. We're looking for feathered birds today. We're not looking for topies. Jamie's looking for topies, not us. I want to see a blue flycatcher. That's what I want to see. And I've seen them down here along the river before. Particularly this next little spot about 100 meters away is one of my favorite blue flycatcher spots. Outside of our camp, of course. Oh! Bee Monitor, you are spot on. It is indeed called a flay ink flower. Now, why I say it's so interesting is because it is a hemiparasite. So a hemiparasite is, of course, a parasitic plant. But they are only parasitic if the times are tough. If there's a lot of rain and nutrients in the soil, they're completely non-parasitic. They live by themselves. But when times are tough, they become parasitic, and their roots will go into the roots of grass species and drain the nutrients from the grass. So they are a hemiparasite. So sometimes they're parasitic, sometimes they're not. I find that absolutely fascinating. Okay. Checking carefully amongst these croton thickets here. As I said, this is a good spot for the African blue flycatcher, but all I can see for now is a little bee eater straight down that hippo path to the right. There's a little bee eater. Oh, he flew off. Wait, he might come back to his perch. They often do that, same perch. No, not today. The bee eater is not going to go back to the same perch today. Maybe we'll spot it again on the other side of this little bush. As I said, we're looking for African blue flycatchers at the moment. And I have seen quite a few African blue flycatchers in this little spot here. Let's just go up to the edge of the river. Oh, I can hear some babblers though. There he is. Oh, sorry Arch, I know the light's harsh, but the little bee eater has landed in the worst spot for the camera. We can't see any of his beautiful coloration, just the fact that it is a bee eater. Oh, there's a hippo. Another late morning hippo on the other side of the river. Now, in that exact spot where that hippo is the first place I ever saw Scarface the lion. And where are those babblers now? They're babbling just below us. Let's see if we can get a view of the babblers. Or maybe let's wait for the hippo to go into the water. He might make a big splash. The babblers make enough noise that we should be able to find them without too much hassle. But the hippo is looking for a nice, easy way down back into the river. And for me, it hasn't chosen the easiest path. That's why I think it might make a good splash as it comes in. Hello, Jamie. Jamie's wondering, do hippo prefer being in or out of the water? During the day, they prefer being in the water. They get really bad sunburn, Jamie. So they prefer being in the water during the day, but out of the water at night, because that's where they feed. Now, you've got to be quite careful if you're living around the river and whatnot with the hippos. Babblers seem to be egging him on. Come on. You can do it. It's not that steep. Your weight might... Jason is wondering, would hippos attack other herbivores on land? Yes, but very rarely. It's very uncommon. Oh, slip, slip, slip. This is the most dainty entrance to the water I've seen a hippo do in quite some time. Looks like he's actually having a drink first. Here we go. Glop. Off they goes. Let's go find those babblers. Now, you've got to be quite careful with your babbler species in the Mara, because there are two species. You have the arrow-marked babbler, which is the same one we get at Djuma, as well as the black lord babbler, and they look very similar. The main way to tell their difference, well, let's just get a safety, because like, oh no, they've moved on a bit, is from the eye color. They're right here, I think, and they sound very similar. So as I said, you gotta really get a nice shot of them, get a close-up on their eye, because the eye color is going to tell you which babbler species it is. Now they're right in these bushes here, so let's hope from here we might get a decent view of the babblers. They're not being very cooperative. You can hear them babbling still. Oh, there's a little bee eater though. So there's a small broken branch. And so a little bit to the left. There we go. Center of frame. There we go. There we go. Now we can see that little bee eater in all its glory with the colors, where the light didn't let us beforehand. Oof, off it goes. Okay, let me try one more spot for these babblers. They're being difficult. Noisy, but difficult. Oop, I nearly went into a hole. They're all right here. We just can't get a view. Let's try one last spot from the other side of this little bush. Oh, does it sound like they moved this way again, Arch? Yes, there they are. Okay, let's try a safety shot from distance. So in that gap there. Head down a bit. Oh, oh. The hunt for the babblers continues. A little bit further along. Let's see if we can get a... See, at least they're moving into some... Okay. You see them there at like 12 o'clock. At least they're moving into some slightly more sparsely... Are we maximum there?
Yeah.
Who can see eye color? Is it light or dark? I can't see eye color. Turn your head to the light. Turn your head to the light. Irrits. Irrits. Okay, last try. We just need to get eye color to get species. Whether it's an arrow marked or black lord. This is fun, chasing babblers. Okay. That's more, there we go, they're all going into that bush there. So we might be able to get eye color now. Of course, its head's in the shade. That's light. Well, let's just go a bit to the left, see if we can get one of the others. A little bit to the right. There. Come on, guys. Show us your eyes. I think I saw light-colored eyes. There we go. That's the one. Come on. Turn. Was that dark? Maybe you guys who can grab some screenshots and can zoom in on them, let me know whether it's light or dark colored eyes. I think dark as well. I was hoping for light to get you guys a new species, but I think they are arrow mark babblers, not black lord babblers. Unfortunately, the road goes away from the river there, so we're going to turn around and continue on our adventures down the edge of the Mara River before looping back towards... Actually, just change of plans. Those zebras are heading back towards Main South, so I'm going to rush back towards the crossing. While we do that, let's go send you across to Jamie.
Well, we found, thanks to Manu's sharp eyesight, which apparently is just as good even with only one properly functioning eye, we found the unicorn. Well, Manu found the unicorn. And we were sitting there for so long while Brent attempted to show you the color of the babbler's eye that we decided we'd try and get you a closer view. So we found her. The trick is now just to shuffle ourselves around until we can get back to her. She's still pregnant though. I obviously left the hyena sighting, made space for other vehicles. Oh, there's a lion. We're never going to achieve our goals this morning, Manu. It's a big lion. It's one of Scar's mates, or Scar. Hold on a second. Whoopsie. Okay, let me show you where he is. It's a long way for me to get round this lugger. Chitty chatty Meg, yes indeed, and it seems as though I have been granted my wish. I'm pretty sure that's Scar over there. He got that main flop over the front of his eyes. I think it's him. I think it's him. I think I have been treated to all the things that the Mara has to offer. Amazing. Absolutely incredible. Hello, boy. Shame, there's a good chance when I come back to the Mara he might not be here anymore. He's looking really old. He looks thin. He looks tired. He's limping. I'm not sure when I'll be back. Where? Where's there a lioness? Is there a lioness? Where? Ah, awesome. Apparently in front of him on the left, there is a lioness as well. Ah, so he's obviously mating. Unfortunately, there are now there's 4 vehicles. By the time I get around there, there's going to be 5. So we're going to struggle. We'll have to come back to him, I think. And just wait for other people to have had a chance to see him. Oh, no, maybe not. We might get lucky. Let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. We've got to go round anyway to get to him. And I would love to see him before I leave. I haven't got one photo of Scar. So that would be really nice. I'm sure he's mating with that female as well. Leaving behind, when he does go, leaving behind a spectacular legacy. He's been around for a very long time. And he has sired lots and lots of cubs. Okay. We're going to sneak up closer to one of the most famous lions in the Masai Mara. While we do, let's see if James has managed to get any closer to the leopards he is tracking.
We might be closer to the leopard, we might be far away from the leopard, I can't really tell you. Oh, apparently the leopard has walked precisely where we are lying. Thank you, Herbert. That's not what we were going to look at. We're going to look at this little arrangement of vegetation poo. Now, one of the complaints we had the other day about bushwalk was that we were going to look at dry grass and poo. Well, I'm very pleased to announce that we can show you some poo. And so, my nose up to those who complained about the poo. There it is. This is a little bit of poo and some dry grass. But the most interesting part of what we're going to show you here are the number of jumping spiders that are living around here, or have certainly come to hunt here, and I suspect that they're hunting the ants. There is also evidence of broken fresh grass or fresh vegetation, and so something has come to graze here, and I suspect very strongly that it was an impala. You see the little jumping spiders? I'd love to see one of them actually hunt something. Like an ant. I'm pretty sure that's what they're here to get. And there are 1, 2, 3, I can see 3, 4 little jumping spiders. 2 of them definitely the same species. I think probably all 3 the same species. They're so cute. I know that it's almost impossible for people who are even slightly arachnophobic to think about a spider as being cute, but really they are very cute. I'll try and lift this one. No, he's jumped. There he is. If you do enjoy jumping spiders, on that second Planet Earth series, they've got a segment on a jumping spider and it hunting. I forget exactly what it was hunting, but it really is quite spectacular, the footage they managed to get of these little things. They occur all over the world. Ooh, okay, let's go back across to Brent Leo Smith. He's not going to show you any babblers anymore. This time he's got a mongoose, and the mongoose has a small mongoose.
Well, guys, we've come across my favorite little troop of banded mongoose. Arch, let's just go to the big group that is. They're carrying some tiny babies. I'm just trying to see where they are. As soon as we came around the corner, Mom picked one up. They were very, very, very small. Tiny, tiny babies. I'm trying to see. And immediately the whole family banded around. Banded mongooses banding around each other. Where's the little babies? There. Oh, look at that. Look at Mom carrying the baby up a little bit there. Oh my goodness, isn't it cute? It's so small. It's so small. Oh my goodness, isn't that wonderful? I saw at least 2 tiny little ones being carried by adults. Tiny little baby banded mongoose. Now, they live here. We've spent quite a lot of time at this crossing point, and their den is actually in the riverbank below here. Look how the families march around. We'll try get another view of the little one. You can see the big males just sitting at the back. They're nonplussed, but obviously Mom's quite nervous with little ones around. And they've just woken up and heading out. I think Mom might have ducked back down with the little ones. Tina was asking, were they all trying to carry it? Well, Tina, it was difficult to say. Probably Mom was doing most of the carrying. There. There's 2 different babies being carried by 2 different individuals. Oh my goodness, look at it. But you can see what a tight family group banded mongoose are. How they band around those mothers and try to keep them safe. Oh, I love banded mongoose. They're so cool. But I don't want to disturb them too much, so let's just move past them. Unfortunately, we had to come past them as they were coming out of the hill, and I was rushing because the zebra have started building around here again. So we're just going to get ourselves in our spot, our patience pants spot. And we can't actually see the zebras because they're behind this big green bush, but they're going to walk down. If they do cross, they're going to come down in front of us. Now, there has been a lioness hanging around these crossings as well. And I haven't seen her today, but on our side of the river, but that doesn't mean she hasn't crossed to the other. Now let's see. Any birds? No swallows sitting nicely in the warm sun for us. No rattling cisticulars about. No little bee-eaters hawking for insects. Well, there are little bee-eaters just on the other side of the river. It's a bit far. No sign of any of the big Mara crocs just yet either. Oh, let's just up to the left of that thorn tree arch, about there. Saw something land. Oh, difficult to tell from this distance, but that looks like a rattling cisticular, or a cisticular. Yes, it's a rattling. Oh, there we go. It's off. A rattling cisticular disappearing. There, the zebra's there. I've moved direction slightly. There's a bit of bit of feistiness amongst the zebras this morning. Now, if I was a zebra of wildebeest, I'd brave the cold, and I would only cross at like first light in the morning, while the crocodiles are still quite lazy. Okay, well, I'm going to wait here for a little bit longer. In the meantime, let's send you back to Jamie with some Topi on the move.
I think that would be a very good plan indeed, to cross the Mara River early. when the crocodiles are still sleeping. Unfortunately, the wildebeest, I don't think, have that level of forward planning. I have seen them cross early, though, and I've seen them cross late at night, which I never expected to see. So we've come around to where Scar is. At the moment, we're just watching the topi because we can't see him. We're blocked by a couple of other vehicles, so we're just going to sit and wait patiently for our turn and see if we can, by chance, spot our unicorn, although I think she's further away. I think, unfortunately, she is too far away for us. The topi was sprinting around, as topi do. We thought perhaps they might be chasing a hyena away. Oh, there we go. Well done, girl. Thank you. There's one of the lionesses. Probably, given where she is, one of the Magoros, but that's not certain. Oh, it looks like her. It's the one with the missing tail tip. There are 3 lionesses that I know of with missing tail tips. One we saw last night around Little Governors. One that we've been seeing around the river. So this could be her. Might explain why she's been on her own. And then the second is the... What have we got? We've got hyenas bouncing around, looking at lions. The third is the Magoro lioness with a patchy bit of skin. Careful. You don't want to come running through here. Scar will not be tolerant of your presence. That nervous lope. Full of energy. The place is... There's just hyenas absolutely everywhere. This one's just galloping around. Ravinda, there are 2 conflicting stories about the story behind Scar. The reason that the true story, as far as I can tell, is... Oh, there we go. The true story that I can see, or that I've worked out, or been told, is that it was during a territorial battle. There he is over there, popping out in the long grass. It was during a fight with other male lions. However, there was a time when he did find himself afflicted by a spear wound, which is one of the realities of life out here. I don't believe that it gave him that scar, but he was treated for a spear wound. Look at this lion, he's watching this hyena. So there was a time when Scar was dominant over the marsh pride, and the marsh pride's territory is very, very close to a neighboring community. And as a result, the lions do come into conflict with people. There was a very unfortunate situation where most of the marsh pride were actually poisoned by a poisoned carcass, probably in revenge for the death of a cow. But yes, there was a time when Scar was speared. However, the most likely explanation behind the scar on his face was that it was a battle with other lions. Apparently he's about 11 years old. I have to tell you, I think he looks older looking at his teeth, but I of course could be mistaken. He has been followed since he was very young. I'm afraid there's not much I can do about our current view. We just have to sit tight and wait for our chance, our turn to go and see him. While we wait for our turn to see one of the legends of the Masai Mara, I'm pretty certain it's him, let's go and see what James can see from the top of a termite mound.
I can't see very much, except that up here there are 3 species of tree intermingled with each other, making friends, well, setting an example, I suppose, for animals and humanity alike. We've got a guarri bush, the magic guarri over here, Euclea divinorum. We've got 4 things, one of which is really interesting. The other is this scraggly example of a gruvia. I think it's Gruvia flavescens, that's this thing here, or sandpaper raisin. And then we have got my favourite tree out here, the low-felt milkberry. You can see there. fairy tale tree. And then, possibly most interesting, we've got this thing here. Oh, don't fall over, James. You see this? It's a creeper, and as far as I remember, its name is Roycissus quadrangulensis, I think, which basically means quadrangulensis, which means four-angled. This interestingly has 5 angles on some of the nodes, but mostly it's 4. Otherwise known as the elephant's pudding, and it is a creeper that I can't remember seeing here very often before. And it's a creeper that elephants really enjoy eating. And you can see its little creeping holding arm there that does have a name that temporarily escapes me at the moment. So that's Roycissus quadrangulensis, or the elephant's pudding. Very nice. I wonder what it will taste like with some cinnamon, a few raisins, some nice homemade pastry. What do you think, David? In lieu of apple pie, perhaps? That's all I can think about as we head towards the weekend. So that's what we have there. Very nice. On we go. We have found further Hosanna tracks. They're around here somewhere, but we haven't managed to find the actual animal here. My safari, the hardest tree is the most common tree here, if you can believe it. Combretum apiculatum, or the red bush willow, which I could probably find if we went down here. They have an incredibly dense wood, and I'm trying to think what the softest wood would be. It's probably one of the acacias, you know, or one of the Senegalias. Marulas don't have very hard wood, they've got quite soft wood. Anything that grows relatively quickly is going to have softish wood. I bet I can't. Oh, there's one right here. This is a red bush willow over here, Combretum apiculatum, relatively slow growing, and for it to have produced a trunk like this is actually one of the biggest I've seen. This trunk is immense for a red bush willow, and it's denser than leadwood. I suspect it's been here for many, many years, and if you look at it, there is no rotting going on. Nothing can get into the wood here to rot it. There's no fungus growing out of it. The termites have hardly managed to make any inroads at all. And so it will lie here in rain or shine, season after season, without rotting. A marula tree of the same age, lying on the ground here, would disintegrate, or probably within 2 or 3 years. And I suspect this thing's been here for much longer than that. So there you are. Very nice question. Thank you for that. We did have, like I say, some Hosanna tracks coming along here. That little bit of rain that we had yesterday evening has just put a crust over the top of the earth, which has made it quite difficult to track. So we are going to continue our efforts while we go across to possibly one of the most famous cats in all the world. And his name is Tom. Is it?
The most famous lion in the Mara is doing a truly fantastic impression of grass, or was. And unfortunately, I went to the wrong side. I thought he would walk towards this female, so we couldn't really see him. I moved around this way, and he's suddenly decided to go lie down. Shame. He's limping quite nastily. Oh, flop. There we go. And he's invisible. Well, that was good. At least you got to see the back of his head. We'll sit here for as long as we possibly can. This is going to be a very popular sighting in the Mara, so we might have to come back towards the end of drive. There's our lioness. Let's have a closer look at her, see if she's a Magoro. I think it's her. Yeah, I think I can see that bald patch above her top left lip. Looks like her. She's also got those scars on her face. Oh, don't put your face down too. My girl, that's not very helpful at all. I'm pretty certain it's her, though, so it would be one of the Magoro females. Really lovely to see the legend. He's been around the main crossings for quite a while now, and the good news is, even though he is limping quite badly, and he's not terribly comfortable at the moment, he is, of course, right in the center of the migration. So in other words, there'll be plenty of food around, and even if he isn't quite capable of chasing down a wildebeest, the females will be, and he'll be able to go in and secure himself a meal. I think what he's done is secured himself a female. He's been limping for a long time. I haven't seen any prominent injuries, but obviously there's a bad tendon or perhaps a fractured bone somewhere that's causing that limp. He's still the king, though. The prime territorial spot of the Masai Mara. Right next to the Mara River, the Magoro drainage line. The only thing he has to share with is North Clan. North Clan and Scar's territory pretty much overlap almost completely. He extends a bit further to the south. We're going to sit patiently. This is a rare opportunity to see the king in, I wouldn't say quite his prime, but he is around. So I'm going to sit and wait until we get to see his face. While we do, Brent is still trundling along the banks of the Mara River.
Very patiently waiting for those zebra to come down. I'd say it's quite a difficult spot in Main South, because to get into the best position to see a crossing, you can't really actually see what's happening on the other side. So maybe let's just move up onto the main road a little bit so we can just have oh no, but they're calling. Sort of trying to G themselves up a bit. But our mongoose family's out again, so we can go visit them while we wait. Hi, Ravinda. Ravinda's wondering why we're not witnessing as many wildebeest crossings in this area as last year. It's all to do with the rain that we've had in the last little while, Ravinda. Zebras have moved that way again. So there's so much grass, so much rain, and there's been so much rain, there's so much grass that they haven't needed to utilize the northern part of the Mara yet. And the closest wildebeest herds are still a couple of kilometers behind us. I just wanted to see where my Mongie friends went. There they are! No, don't go down to the river again. They've still got the babies, still carrying them with them. It's a little bit to the right. That group there, that's where the babies are. There they are. See, they're running around with the business. Of course, the collective noun for a group of mongoose is a business. And you can see why. They all look like they're up to business. You can see how the little ones, while they're feeding, are right in the center of a big group. They're a little bit to the right. There we go, they're running around. Two of them, oh, look at them. Now, oh, isn't that wonderful? You can see how the whole family group will gather around to protect the little mongoose. Okay, now let's try and get a little bit closer. They're going to move into these croton thickets feeding now, but hopefully we can get a few nice views of them. I'm hoping. They've got to cross a little bit of open ground after this, and you'll see how carefully, if they do it while we're here, of course. I don't know if we're going to be able to see too much. They're right in that little croton thicket. Oh, there we go. They're going to cross the open. Yes, now we should see something. Look at that. Let's just watch for a second. See if we can spot the little ones. If they're going to be carried across the open ground, or they're going to have to use their own 2 feet. I think they're going to be made to use their own 2 feet. They need to become quite mobile at a very young age because of how banded mongooses feed. We see them. Yes, there they are. Look at them! Through the rocks. Come on, up, up, up. Oh, they are so wonderful. Now, Liz was asking, is there only one pair that breeds like dwarf mongoose? No, completely the opposite. All females in the business will breed, but there will be 1 to 3 dominant males that do the mating of the babies. But so quite a different social setup from dwarf mongoose. Wind is picking up again now, and they are heading into an area where there are no roads, and of course we've got some lovely impala in front of us, a topi, some tommies, and there were quite a few baby impala in this group. Well, they're the tommies, all the boys with no girlfriends, and the same can be said for the topi, a boy with no girlfriends. But they're the babies. A little bit to the right, the baby impala, they're all nestled down in the grass. Okay, let's keep moving now. Let's see. Oh, I see the governor's cars on the other side of the river is back, but I can't. See, it's quite, as I say, main south is a tricky one. I'm just going to go up to the road junction here where I can get a bit of height to see if we can see the zebras and whether they're thinking about crossing. Although quite a lot of vehicles in the Mara have serious patience pants, and they can wait the whole day for a herd of zebra like this that's umming and ahhing, going backwards and forwards. But we're going to be able to see where they are from up here. Now they've moved a little bit further from the river again. So there they are there. Now they've come down 3 times to quite close to the river. And then they've gone back up, gone down, gone back up. Okay, but we've got some nice buffalo up ahead. And some birds of prey. Hello, old men. Hello, old boys. Chewing the cud. Just chewing the cud. Nom, nom, nom. Now, of course, very quickly, they can become quite grumpy, especially if there's a lion around. And these old boys, particularly these old boys around the crossings, seem to have almost zero tolerance for lions around and will actually actively seek them out to chase them. And then, as I said, we've got a marabou stork. Oh no, that's the other buffalo, there are 2 of them. And then up ahead we've got, I'm trying to see there, marabou stork, and what looks to be from this distance, white-back vulture. Yeah, white-back vulture. The wind is starting to howl. Okay, so I think we're gonna wait it out a little bit longer in this area, see if we get any luck with those zebra. If not, we're gonna continue on. But in the meantime, James, after his bushwalk from yesterday, can't seem to find anything today and has been forced to play with his walking stick.
That is called frustration. Hosanna has been found. Tandi has been found. They have both been found on a dikekil to the south of our boundary, which tells me that it will not only be the 2 of them, it will also be Tlalamba. So even if we had a vehicle, we couldn't go off to see them, which is very sad indeed. And so now I don't really know what to do. Herbert looks like a man who's received some very bad news. Look at him. I mean, he can barely stand up straight. You can see he just wants to lie down. What we have here, quite interestingly, seems to be, I thought initially a bone fragment, but I actually think it's a tusk. It's a piece of ivory. Isn't that cool? Very nicely clean. And it's completely smooth. Now I suspect it's come from a young elephant, because if you look over here, you can see where the nerve ran, inside the tooth. Now for those of you who don't know, a tusk is an incisor tooth, and the nerve does run all the way down. And you can see, which way does it get thinner? It's difficult to tell actually. I think it probably ran from this side down towards this side. And it must have been extremely painful when this thing cracked open, because it would have exposed that nerve, which eventually would have shriveled and died, hopefully not leaving a dreadful abscess. I'm reminded of my own trials as a young boy in the dentist's chair. I obviously developed late, and the human milk tooth is not meant to last inside the mouth for 14 years, and mine had to, and they had all sorts of abscesses and things, and so I know exactly what this poor elephant went through. And obviously the elephant did it without the benefit of nitrous oxide or local anesthetic. Carol, no, I don't think anything eats ivory. I'm not sure of anything that is able to eat enamel or ivory, so I don't know of any insect that does. Of course, I mean, there are insects that eat keratin from the horns that you find out here, but I don't think that there's anything that would eat ivory. I mean, this is a tooth, and if you find hyena dung, you will often find, if they've eaten something small, you'll find the teeth of the animals they've eaten, and indeed in leopard dung. You know, they come through the digestive tract completely intact. And if a hyena is unable to digest something, you can be fairly sure that almost nothing else in the world could. So I think this will eventually just slowly rot away. Very nice. Alrighty. Let's see. Here's another piece. Now that's bone. That's bone, I think. Look at the difference. What do you think, Dave? Or do you think it's the same thing?
I can't really see. Just open it up a bit more.
No, I think it's the same. I think it's the same thing. This one's just rotting. Maybe that's where the problem came. Maybe there was an abscess, and that's what eventually cracked the tooth off. Maybe that's where the contact with the infected root was made. I wonder if there's anything else around here. So shiny. Here is a bone, which looks a bit different. You're all saying I must take it to the tent. I think we probably will do that. Let me see if I can... Oh, there we go. You can see... Let me just try and clean this out slightly. But bone looks completely different. You can't really see it there, but the bone really, on the inside, does look totally different. Kirsten is now being facetious from the final control. But it feels completely different. An old bone like this will actually leave splinters in your fingers, whereas the ivory doesn't. This looks like I'm going to say a warthog, and I'm going to say, which part of the warthog? I'm going to say this was probably the radius no, that's big. It'd be a bit big, wouldn't it? It's interesting. I don't know. Let me have a think about it while we walk along. In the meantime, let's go across to Brent Leo Smith, who has managed to find himself a lioness, which is very exciting. There's another bone here. I shall investigate that and contemplate the lack of leopard.
Well, the vigil at the crossings has turned into a big cat vigil. Well, I think the way she's walking, the zebra are going to spot, or maybe not. You never know. She's looking quite hungry. A Paradise Pride female on the other side of the river, walking with some purpose. Now, as I said, unfortunately, she might scare those zebras from crossing the river. The wind is in her favor at the moment. Okay, we're going to have to move around the bush to see where she's going. I'll just wait here for a second. We can still see her. And see if she heads up and away or towards the zebra. Seems to be contemplating which direction. Which way to go? Where is something to eat? I think she's quite hungry by the looks of things. And of course the Paradise Pride, like the crocodiles at these crossings, have had a tough year because there just hasn't been as much food around the crossings as there normally are. As there normally are. Woof, horrible English. Now let's just get a little bit higher and see where those zebra are. And unfortunately, I think if she does hunt them, it's going to be a little bit out of our range, because the zebra have moved quite high up onto the hill now. Just trying to see her. I've lost sight of her in the long grass as well. Let's just wait here for a second. You can see the zebra on top of the hill. Lynn, I have not seen lions cross this river. I have seen lions cross other rivers. A little bit to the right, I think they arch, the zebra. Well, they're behind the bush for us. No, they're behind the bush. I can barely see her. She stopped moving, but she might move out. Or she might just lie down in that long grass and wait for the zebra to come down to the river. So I've managed to park the zebra behind the bush for Archie, the lion's behind the bush for Archie. Sorry, Archie. Okay, you should get the lion now. So it's sort of directly opposite me, just to the right of that bush there. And you can just see her ears in the bottom right corner. There she is. Now, if I was a lion, I'd just hunker down in that long grass and wait it out. Because those zebra, I'm pretty sure, are going to be coming backwards and forwards. Well, it sounds like I'm not the only one who's got lion ears in the long grass. Let's go see what's happening with Jamie.
Our lions are still very flat, and I'm desperately trying to decide what to do because I don't know if he's going to move at all. I could sit here for the next hour or so and miss out on Waffles' cubs for my second last morning, but let's see what happens. It is starting to heat up this morning, so he really isn't showing any sign of moving. There he is. He's in there. You can just see the dark tinge of his mane. Unfortunately, I won't be able now at this point to get to Waffles and then get back here before the end of drive. So we've got a decision to make. We've just pushed someone out of the mud behind us. It was quite entertaining. The guide is refusing to acknowledge that I pushed him out. He has not even so much as looked at me. It's actually a bit hilarious. I understand, of course, the horror of being stuck and the embarrassment that goes along with it. There wasn't much he could do. He just had to wait for me to come along behind him and put my bumper up against his back spare tire. Anyway, so that's the excitement that's been happening here while you've been away. I'm very jealous of Brent's baby mongoose sighting. It sounds amazing. But right now, these lions are properly fast asleep. I'm hoping, well, I've been hoping for the last 20 minutes or so that they were going to move, because if they are mating, then it should be roughly every 15 minutes. Kelly, you vote for going to Waffles and the Wafflets. I'm probably going to. It's going to take me a long time, though. I've now sort of thrown off my scheduling slightly. It's going to take me about half an hour to get to the Wafflets, and by then they could well be asleep. So deciding is a tricky thing to do. Okay, well, since the sighting is so amazing, we're going to send you across to Brent, who has found an amazing tree to keep you entertained while the lions sleep.
Did she say Brent? Brent? No, James. It is I, James. Me, yes, not like Brent at all. We've got a tree here, obviously. It's a marula tree. And I was talking earlier about the fact that it tends to rot faster than combretum, and you can see here that it definitely is much easier to access for wood-boring beetles, for woodpeckers. You can see the woodpeckers have been drilling over here. That's what they're going for there. And they've been drilling for the larvae of wood-boring beetles and the like. The termites have got in here. In fact, the termites have departed from here. They haven't even bothered to hang around for too long, whereas they didn't manage that on that fallen over combretum that I showed you. So the wood is definitely much softer on the marula. See there? Now, it's not very sensitive to pull something like this away, but because it's just kind of still winter, and I pulled away a little bit and didn't see very much living in here, I thought it would be okay. Unfortunately, what we have done, David, he's back again, is disturbed a fellow called Kogolochi. Can you see Kogolochi there, Dave? He's, yeah, you got him? That is a cockroach, everybody. There are lots and lots of different kinds of cockroach. And while many of you will go, cockroach, imagining these things scuttling underneath your dishwasher, indicating that perhaps your level of home hygiene isn't quite what you thought it was, they are totally natural, of course, and they occur in great abundance in the wild and in various different species. And most interestingly, perhaps, is that the termite is pretty closely related to the cockroach. Now, if you watch him very carefully, he'll probably start cleaning his antenna. No, unfortunately, he got a fright when David moved. I told you David's bulked up a bit since his gym regime took on its current strenuous form. There we are. Yes, Dr. Roberts, exactly the kind of place you'd find scorpions and violin spiders. Probably more likely if they were on the ground than extending up like that. But yes, you would find scorpions there. David says he found a scorpion yesterday in the car park, and so it is time to start wearing our shoes again in the evenings because the scorpions are going to be out. The most impressive scorpion I ever found was actually in my bed. It was just at the end of last summer, and I woke up, pulled the sheet off, and there was a scorpion lying next to me. Thankfully, hadn't stung me, and it was a parabuthid, so it would have been a very, very nasty sting had it stuck its nasty little tail stinger into me. Very unkind it was to try and climb into my bed. I suppose kind that it didn't sting me. I have been stung once by a scorpion out here, an olivaceous scorpion. It's very painful, but it's not, I mean, they're not particularly harmful to human beings, but what they do is there's a piece of their, or a chemical in their venom that creates a tremendously anxious response in you. I think it stimulates your adrenal gland to produce adrenaline or epinephrine, which is the same thing, depending on where you are in the world, and it makes you feel very anxious. So you get stung by it, and you think, oh my goodness, I've been stung by a scorpion, what's going to happen to me, I don't want to die. And then you eventually calm down when you realise that it's all okay. Yes, Aramua, yikes it was when I found a scorpion in my bed next to me. It was very unpleasant indeed. Oh, many of you wondering how David's leg is. David, can we have an update? Look at this, everybody. We didn't actually cut it off in the end. That is where the concrete took him, on the calf. Here is where bit of stone next to the concrete took him, and he's going to clock me one upside the head very shortly. Anyway, we're going to keep going. We're going to have to start looking for small things now, because all of our leopards are to the south and our lions are to the north. By the way, an update on those distress calls. The only interpretation we can make is buffalo are up north as well. So maybe they killed a baby and ate it and finished it, or more likely they had a go at the buffalo herd and missed. No, Tina, the two would not necessarily hold true. If you are allergic to bees and wasps, it's most likely bees. I think very few people are allergic to wasps, as far as I understand it. And it would be a different histamine, which I think is the chemical that gives you the allergic reaction, be different. If you were allergic to scorpion venom, you could have an allergic reaction to scorpion venom, but I think it's unlikely. You know, the protein in the venom is something that's going to, in the case of a parabuthid scorpion, is going to affect your nervous system. And I think that would be very difficult to distinguish from an allergic reaction. I'm not entirely sure of the physiology of the two things, but I don't, you know, some people react very differently to snake venom, for example. Some people can have an almost allergic reaction, and some people will be much less affected by snake venom. Look at this magnificent termite mound over here. And you can just imagine a warthog living in there. We were nearly run over by a warthog earlier today, coming out of a hole just like that. All right, we're going to attempt to continue to find something of biological interest to all of you and to us while we go across to Brent Leo Smith in the Mara.
Well, we are still sitting in the same spot. The zebras have come out into the open a bit more and seem to possibly be heading down towards Main South again. The lioness is still in the same spot, her ears just peeking over the long grass. So we're going to sit up here where it's a bit higher for a little bit longer. Oh, she's just popped her head down. No, a little bit to the right maybe, Arch? There. No? Is that a termite mound? That's a termite mound. Back to the left slightly maybe. Keep going. Keep going. There. There she is. So these poor zebra, even if they decide to cross, they've got to deal with the monster crocodiles of the Mara, but also waiting on the banks, the Paradise Pride. The wind is perfect for it. It's blowing from the zebras towards her, and the zebras seem to be trying to build enough sort of, I'm trying to think the word, bravery or gumshoe to cross the river. Dr. Rob is wondering, do the lions in the Mara use the cars like the leopards at Djuma? Sometimes they do, definitely. Particularly in areas that are quite heavily congested with tourist traffic, they will sometimes use the cars. I have seen them do it. You must remember they are mammals, they are able to learn. So yes, they will on occasion use the vehicles. Now unfortunately for us, this wind is keeping all my little birdie friends at bay, because normally this is quite a good birding area, but the strong winds probably keeping them in the thickets. I definitely think it's worth keeping our patience pants on in this wind and hanging out about here, seeing if the zebras get, unfortunately for the zebras, if they either get caught by a crocodile or caught by a lion, or possibly escape death from both. But for the moment the zebras seem quite content just on the rise, but that can change very, very quickly. They just hang on. Why is that person rushing that way? no. Oof, it's such a decision now. I don't think they're rushing to anything over there. Romit is wondering how close is the zebra to the banks. Romit, they're probably 100 meters or so, but that can change very quickly. As soon as they sort of decide to go in a direction, they just go. And they've come right close, within 10 meters of the water, twice this morning before, maybe not yet, and going back up onto that ridge. So they definitely do want to cross, and the best way to see that is to sit it out here and play the patience game to see what happens, and particularly because we've got both lions and crocodiles as potential predators for this zebra herd. So we'll have to be very, very patient to see what happens next. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we're in for some action. Now, I've been trying to spot a croc on the banks, but they're all still in the water. It's still a bit chilly. Strong winds. And you can see the zebras, they're just moving up and down, up and down. They're not really feeding. And I definitely think just waiting it out here, for the next little while at least, is the way forward. Okay, well, I'm going to continue our vigil here next to the river, but let's send you back to Jamie, who's on her way to try find some wafflets.
Morning, morning. Hi, guys. Sorry about that. That was really beautifully timed. So Brent's going to continue waiting. We're going to continue moving. In the end, the decision was made for us by the arrival of a sixth vehicle at the sighting with Scar. And since we'd been there for the longest period of time, it was our turn to leave. So I'm trying it. I'm making a break for it. I'm hoping Waffles' cubs are still around, out and about. I think they're probably asleep. But let's give it a go. Let's try. So I'm not stopping for anything. In certain places here, I actually can't stop for anything. Oh, I'm trying to fix the ruts before they dry completely. Hello, zebbies. Excuse me. You must always stop for a zebra crossing, though. It is ingrained within me from childhood. Come here. Sorry, I choked over a chocolate biscuit. No, sorry, I'm fine. Michael, I just got so overly overwhelmed by your question that I choked over the piece of chocolate biscuit I was trying to swallow as you arrived with me. No, I can't recognize every single member of North Clan, unfortunately. I've tried. Kirsty would like to know if I'd want some water. I do, but it's somewhere in this car and I can't be bothered to stop to look for it. I'll be fine. I'll find it when I get to the den. No problem. We're so close now. Another 2 minutes and we should be there. I can see the tree. I had this desperate desire when I first started working with North Clan to learn every single member of them, of the clan. And it, honestly, I could have done it, I think. But there were some clan members I didn't have pictures of, some I only had half pictures of or turned slightly to the side. And I focused so much on developing the story of Waffles and her place within the clan and of course the den, that it really, I mean, if I spent most of my time really essentially learning the ones that I saw regularly around the den or with Waffles, because those were the ones that I would go back and identify. And if I had a once-off sighting, which I would occasionally, of, for example, pterodactyl or Yipsy, the male, I would go and identify that individual and then I wouldn't see them again. So I ran out of practice, or I didn't practice enough to actually recognize them. What I did was I used to put pieces of paper over the names of the files as I looked at their pictures, and I'd try and test myself and recognize them. But the problem was I started memorizing the order. No matter how much I scrambled it, there's only so many ways I could make it randomize. So I ended up memorizing the order of the hyenas instead of what I was trying to do, which was check myself on their spots. Or if they had a slightly turned position, or the picture had one of their legs in a hole or something like that, I'd memorize that instead of the spot patterns. So long story short, no, I don't know every member of North Clan. I know all the main ones. And by main, I mean all of the females, the sort of the heads of the female lines. And I know all the cubs, but they've changed so much in the last few weeks that I don't necessarily think I would recognize Pudding now. No, I think I'd recognize Pudding. But they've grown so much. It's something that you need to constantly do in order to stay on top of it with that many hyena. And as soon as we went live again, it became that much trickier to be able to do that. I also needed access to the footage, which, as we got busier, my workstation slowly disappeared until I didn't have access to the server anymore. It was always occupied, so I couldn't go back and ID the individuals like I could before. Okay, the tree is coming up. I wanted to put a river cam in the tree when we took them down for the floods, because it's so close to the den. I thought perhaps if we had a camera up there we could have 24/7 views, or at least 12 hours a day. We could see what the hyenas were up to at the den. It's fractionally too far away though. I'm nervous. I've got a feeling she's not there. We should be very sad. Oof. Roshni? Manu, how many hours? It would be between 8 and 12 hours a day. And I mean, the 8-hour days were rare. It was mostly, let's say, averaged out on 10 hours. Sure. 10 hours a day for 2 months, plus the time before that, for the 2 months before that. A lot of hours. I can't begin to work it out. I don't think Manu can either. So many hours. A lot. I can't do the maths either. Oh, my girl, you are here. Hello. Oh, and there's a head. There's a little head. A little sleepy head. Okay, wait, hold on. I'm going to try something new. Don't panic. You know me. Oh, there's a hole. Don't panic, don't panic. You know me. Let's just see if this will work. I don't think so. I think I might have made an error. Let's just see. I'm going to sit quietly. Hello, little munchkin. Are you comfortable enough with me here? Yes. Goodness. Oh, are we talking? Hello, girl. Do you mind if I sit here? I'm a little closer than normal. Is that all right? Just see if she puts her head down. Yeah, she's fine. I think it was more the cub tugging for milk that disturbed her slightly. You know, in this light, it almost looks like we can see spots. That's the smooth-eared one, tucking into the best suckling position. Can't quite get comfortable though. Oh, Mum, There we go, there's Tatty Ear, taking the less dominant position. Oh, no wonder she can't get comfortable. She's lying down on a slope so that the tatty-eared one can't suckle and lie down without actually gripping on with its teeth. That can't be comfortable at all, Waffles. Oh, look at the little mud feet. Someone discovered a puddle. They look so incredibly tiny up against her belly like that. I'm really relieved they're here. You know, there's always the possibility that tomorrow Waffles is out somewhere having a proper meal. And we might miss out on seeing them. And then I would have been very unhappy. So I'm glad we got here. Peaceful. So we've arrived. It's interesting how similar a timeline they've followed over the past few mornings. It really is. They start playing at about 8:30. Shame she's a bit uneasy in the wind. And there's a warthog that's wondered. You can't see it at the moment, but I can. And I think that's what's attracting her attention. But they come out at about 8:30, or about 8, and they play. And then at 9, they're ready for a proper breakfast. So now you want to know how often the cubs want or need milk from mum. The older they get, the less frequent their feeding sessions will be, but they'll be for longer periods of time. So she probably at this point is feeding them at least 3 times a day. Before that, when they were really small, she was probably giving them 6 or 7 or 8 meals a day. Those of you that have ever raised puppies or kittens, if perhaps there's been a reason that their mothers can't look after them, you know you have to get up every couple of hours in the night to feed them when they're very small. The same applies for little hyena cubs. So she was on call almost constantly during that period of time. Now as they get a bit older, their tummies are a little bit bigger, they'll feed less frequently, possibly for longer periods of time. They could probably sit and suckle like this for the next hour or so. It's very special. I expected these cubs to go through a really nervous phase once they registered us. But it's very special to see that they are completely comfortable. Though of course they're gauging their reaction on their mum's reaction, and Waffles does not mind what we do, provided we give her enough space to do her thing. We're going to sit here and enjoy the rest of the morning with the tiny little suckling cubs. Let's go and see how James intends to spend the rest of his walk.
Well, the first part of the rest of this walk is going to be spent at this ant's nest. And when we got here, it was just a pile of soil. And you can see it's discoloured. And so it's come up from underneath the surface. And, well, quite possibly it's this colour because it has been processed by the ants in some way, although I don't believe it's gone through their digestive tracts. But they've certainly added something to it. And you can see, once we moved away the soil a little bit, there is actually an entrance tunnel. And I don't know what kind of ant this is, but I suspect what they did was they put all of the stuff over the top of it in order to insulate it and protect the nest from predators, especially during the winter months when they are not very active. So we're going to cover it up too. But if you look around it, there is no soil of a similar colour at all. Isn't that amazing? It's a kind of, well, what colour would we say? Dull tannish colour, and that's all we found when we got here. And then I uncovered it. It wasn't very nice of me, but now we've recovered it. Also, a scrub hare has been around here, very finely digested, and David was asking me, as he thought about the unfortunate habit of coprophagy that the hares engage in whether or not they did it more in the summer than in the winter. And I said perhaps, but I actually, on second thoughts, don't think so. I think that obviously when these things process their food for the first time, this is the scrub hare, of course, only a certain amount of digestion takes place, and which means that the pellet that comes out as a sort of mushy jelly capsule the first time is going to do that regardless of the season, and so they probably have to eat it again at all times of the year, which I'm sure you'll all agree is not the most, shall we say, cuisinically pleasant way to survive. Cuisinically? I don't think that's a word. David, is cuisinically a word? No, he says it isn't. I don't think it is. On we go. No more tracks, I'm afraid, so we're just going to be looking for little things for the remainder of our walk. Herbert has got so bored with us that he's departed. Oh no, there he is. Hello, Herbert. Have you found a leopard? Not yet, he says. Oh well, okay. Let's go back to Jamie and her small baby wafflet things in the Masai Mara, which is... I have nothing else to say to you.
The wafflets aren't doing much other than feeding, tucked up against Mum. I'm speaking quite softly, which is probably making things difficult with the wind, but we're quite close. And she's very comfortable, but I don't want to make them uncomfortable with us. Well, they've pretty much become used to the sound of our voices, and you all know hyena cubs. I give them another month. I love snacks too, and that chocolate biscuit nearly saw my end far before my time. The cubs will hide in the den site itself. So there's a series of tunnels here. She's lying in the entrance to one of them, but there's quite a few in this, or at this particular den. And when Waffles is away, the cub's natural instinct, just as the same as a leopard cub or a lion cub of a certain age, they will hide away, tucked deep into the tunnels, where they'll have little shelves that they can sleep on. And they'll curl up together, and they will sleep there. And they'll just sleep. I mean, essentially, instinctively, that's what they will do. They don't do much shuffling around. That could be potentially dangerous because something could hear them moving around underground. So their natural instinct is to go and hide away. And that's exactly what they'll do. And that's what they've done since the moment they were born. Because, of course, Waffles had to eat. She had to drink to be able to provide them with the milk that she does. And as a female spotted hyena, she provides some of the most nutritious milk that is found out here between mammals. It's one of the theories behind why female spotted hyenas to be specific, have evolved in the way that they have, to have such large body sizes, no sexual dimorphism between them and the males. In fact, in certain places they're slightly bigger than the males. High levels of male hormone, and of course a very peculiar genital structure that is unique to them. But it allows them to dominate carcasses, dominate access to food. It's the big mother theory, essentially. The bigger the mother, the better the milk. Look at little patches of mud on its fur. Still no names yet. We'll wait patiently for that decision to be made. I'm hoping before I leave I can figure out what gender they are, but at the same time I'm sure I will find out very quickly once it's known, or once it's confirmed. I mean, Waffles managed to keep the fact that she had 2 cubs secret and we, as I said, we've spent a very long period of time with her. So there's all sorts of other secrets to still unfold. Karen, it's an interesting question. Yes, in an artificial situation, it's cameras have been put into den sites. Here, no, not so much. It's difficult with wild hyenas, it has to be done very, very cautiously. One way that the den life of spotted hyenas has been investigated has been with ultrasound, to try and figure out exactly what it is that's going on below the surface of the soil. Because you see, there's all sorts of confusion that arises from making assumptions. So people were seeing one hyena cub with a mother and assuming that the other one was killed by its sibling. Hence the story of siblicide becoming a massive thing in our understanding of spotted hyenas 20 years ago. It was strongly believed that if you had two female cubs or two male cubs, one of them was going to kill the other, and that was just how it was. And the only real chance of having a male, or having two surviving cubs out of the den, was if it was a male and a female. We know, of course, that this is not the case at all. Siblicide might occur, but it is very, very rare. A lot more rare than previously thought. So ultrasound has been one way. I have to tell you, I think it would be amazing to be able to put a camera in a den site. Imagine what we would learn. It would have to be very non-invasive, and the chances are, if you start interfering too much with the den, there's a possibility that the female might move her cubs away. It's one thing for us to sit in a car next to Waffles, and so far I feel that we've been absolutely fine with her. She's been relaxed with us. She hasn't changed her natural behavior in any way. But we followed a very strict set of rules. Whenever it came time to leave the vehicle, we only did that at around about 500 yards or so at any one point from the den. We were quiet. But it's a very different thing to getting out of the car and but walking all over a den, leaving your human scent everywhere, wherever your shoes have been. They would smell that too. So while Waffles lies down peacefully and enjoys the morning sun, believe that James is... No, Kirsten's got me doing it too. She's been mixing up James and Brent since yesterday, and now I've started it as well. Let's go across to James, who has some stingless bees.
There we have a little tunnel of stingless bees, and they're hardly moving because it's still quite cool. Now, the last time we showed you one of these, of course, it was in the skull of the giraffe that lives in the tent. This is one of the first tunnels I think I've seen out here in the actual wild, and you can see one of them coming to and from the entrance, just adding tiny little droplets of wax. Now, a stingless bee, for me, is the ultimate sort of representation of a peaceful summer's mid-morning, because they'll all come out when it warms up, and they'll buzz around here in a very kind of busy way, but of course they don't sting. That's why they're called stingless bees, and they're busily going around fetching nectar from new blossoms, new flowers, taking it into this beautiful little nest and making a quite sweet and sour honey. And I just really love the urgency and the industry with which they go around about their business as the rest of a summer morning progresses. I don't know, there's something about it that I find very appealing. It's quite fun to lie beneath one or lie next to one and watch them going in and out busily as clouds float lazily by overhead. A lot of you are probably thinking the sky's finally lost it now. And Kirsten says, I knew she would. In fact, this was entirely predictable. She said they thought that a few days ago. Well, as long as it was only a few days. Then, on the same tree, well, next to the same tree, this is a leadwood branch that has got very few cavities in it. What we have on the guarri bush next door is a whole lot of hatched eggies. I'm pretty sure those are probably from caterpillars that have hatched. There might not be caterpillars, actually. There might be something else. But I'm going to go with caterpillars. And I wonder where they've gone. They don't seem to be eating off this particular tree, unless they are leaf tears. So it's very small caterpillars that get in between the dermal layers of a tree leaf. Very nice. The most dangerous insect in this area, Colbert, is unquestionably the Anopheles mosquito. The Anopheles mosquito is a deeply dangerous creature because, of course, it carries the malaria parasite, which, of course, causes malaria. So they're by far the most dangerous thing that you'll find out here, insect-wise. I'm just trying to think other than that. I suppose for many people, bees or honeybees would be the most dangerous if you happen to be allergic to them. But other than that, you know, the insects out here really are not particularly dangerous at all. Some flies carry a few diseases, but I'm going to go definitely with the mosquito. Cal 6, stingless bees defend the hive by making a very secure entrance. It's very difficult for any predator to get in there. And anything that is large and tries to get into it, let me show you what happens. Well, I'm not going to do it, but anything large that tried to get in there would crush the entrance inward and compress it, and the bees would be left sealed inside and completely safe. And it's interesting that the two that I know well, this one and the one in the skull, have been created and built in something that is very difficult to access from the outside. So this is a leadwood branch. It'd be almost impossible to crack unless you had a chainsaw. And likewise, the skull of something like a giraffe, very difficult to get into. I can hear myself speaking because there is a vehicle nearby that appears to have us live at the moment, and so I'm going to greet these people. There'll be a slight delay and they'll suddenly all start laughing when they realize that I realize that they're looking at me. Yes, there we go. That's quite sweet. It's a game drive from one of the neighbouring reserves. They're searching around here and enjoying SafariLive while they do it. That's quite fun. Those are the very friendly owners of Torchwood, where we traverse from time to time. Christy, it's not that common actually to get malaria, but it is possible to get malaria, and it's quite interesting because it still kills people out here in the rural areas of South Africa and in many parts of Africa, despite the fact that it is an entirely curable disease. If you are treated early enough, it's completely curable, and yet we still lose children and young, at least and old people to malaria because medical provisions and medical services, even in a country like South Africa, are so completely disastrously administered to the rural poor. So we do still lose people. I'd lost a friend actually last year to it. He had no excuse. The only reason that he did die from malaria was that he thought he had flu and he didn't go to the doctor. And so in these areas, if you get any kind of flu symptoms, you've got to go to the doctor quickly and check whether you have malaria, and then you take the medication and you can be fine. I mean, Brent's had it something stupid like 11 or 12 times. So, you know, you can get it, but it's totally curable if you're careful about it. Alrighty, I believe for the 756th time we're going to link across to Jamie, who is with, guess what she's with.
Don't worry, James. There's one more day after this, and then you won't be linking to waffles as frequently as perhaps you were before. Somewhere out there towards the river, Brent Leo Smith is shaking his fist and saying, 29 times! I've had malaria 29 times! It's amazing. He'll walk past one bush or through one puddle, and the next thing he'll have malaria, some mysterious tropical disease, or alternatively tick bite fever. I think he's had tick bite fever 3 times in the time that I've known him. I've had tick bite fever once in my life. I was 12. It's just one of those things. Yep, Brent apparently has given Kirsty a thumbs up. The next thing, of course, Brent will be saying is, malaria is serious if you don't treat it seriously. We've definitely gone over this ground before. Now, speaking of ground we've gone over, the little wafflets are very peaceful right now. I don't think they're going to do much more this morning. That's okay. We can just sit content and enjoy this round little fluffy belly, breathing almost in time with Mum, although Mum is breathing very fast, probably because she has a belly full of wildebeest and she's hot. She definitely looks round. It's interesting. Some hyenas have very clear spots, some do not. Waffles is in the do not category. She's got very fluffy sides. It's only on her legs that her spot patterns are more easily recognizable. Generally, I find legs are the best place to look at spots with hyenas. I just find it more accurate. You can gauge, because you're comparing to pictures and everything is dependent on angle, you can look at the position of the spot in relation to the wrist joint or the knee joint or the elbow, and it gives you a much better idea as to how to compare spots. That's just my personal approach. I prefer to use their legs. You can use their sides, but for an individual like Waffles, her sides are indistinct. They're muzzy, which is a combination of fuzzy and I don't know where the M comes from there. They're muzzy. Yes, girl, we're talking about you. She's also got a very distinctive face. She is old, so she is starting to bald. She's got patterns of scars on her cheeks from previous battles. And potentially fly bites and all sorts of things. So she's a very easy hyena to identify. One thing I made certain that I could do was, just in case that collar ever did fall off, I made certain that I could recognize her without looking straight away at the collar, because that would have been embarrassing. Dr. Rob, I'm really glad to hear that SafariLive has brought you to appreciate hyenas. They are fascinating. They are an entire soap opera contained in one clan. There is so much happening at any one point in time. We've focused on Waffles because she's the obvious choice to focus on. She's collared, she's easy to recognize. She happened to have cubs in the middle of our TV series, which was, I confess, beautifully timed. We were very proud of her for that because we weren't 100% certain whether or not she was pregnant or just fat. So we were very proud of her for that. But it made sense to focus on Waffles and her lineage because it's going to be a fascinating story soon as it plays out. Whether or not these cubs are male or female, will Waffles survive? Who will succeed her if she doesn't? These are all really big questions for North Clan. But we haven't touched on Elsie, who is the second highest ranked female after Waffles' line. She should be having cubs soon. We haven't even introduced you to India Inc. We've sort of maybe introduced you to her daughters Garfield and Crazy Cat. And Get Fuzzy you've barely seen. So there are all kinds of stories that we've never had a chance to really tell. But hyenas, that's exactly what they are. They're fascinating. They're a soap opera contained in one single clan. And written that Mr. Leo Smith, he of the malaria of 29 times, or whatever it was, has got some lovely birds to show you.
Well, we've got some more birds. One of the bigger birds we don't see too often in the Mara, a spur-winged goose, or actually a little family of spur-winged goose. That's a juvenile, and there's the big one, the two big adults there, and another juvenile to the right. These inundated grasslands are really producing some wonderful birds at the moment. And we actually had a whole massive flock of ibis and all sorts of things, and then a tawny eagle flew over, and the only things left were the spur wings. But you can hear some smaller little water birds. There we go. That high-pitched, common sandpiper just took off. It is wonderful here this morning. Okay, well, let's move on. I think there's a few more birds. Those birds of prey, unfortunately, really dampened our bird party. The spur-winged goose obviously being way too big. What have we got flying at us? Spur-winged lapwing. Going past our bow. Is he gonna land? No. It's gonna keep flying. It's starting to heat up, but it's still quite chilly, and there was cold wind. I mean, still got my long pants on, and it's still got my jacket on. Bouncity, bouncity, bouncity. I'm hoping, even with the strong wind that are on these flooded grasslands, we might see a few more bird species that we haven't seen yet this morning. Heather is requesting a secretary bird. Now, the one bird you're not going to see in flooded grassland is a secretary bird. They prefer their grassland dry, not wet. So, we might get lucky with some of the stork species, maybe even a spoonbill, but very unlikely to see a secretary bird in the flooded grasslands that we're driving through at the moment. We got some herons in the distance there. I'm just making some space for the vehicles to go past. Amongst a few sacred ibis, there's a, I can't see which heron. Sorry, Arch, I've put you at the most awkward angle, but it's to make sure we don't get driven over while bird watching. A grey heron amongst the sacred ibis. So, always pays to look carefully. But again, this windy weather is not great for birding. There are some waterbuck sitting on the edge of the water as well, and an impala over there as well. Carol, a crowned crane? Definitely. Let's go have a look a little bit further. A crowned crane is a bird species we can expect to find in the flooded grasslands. But hopefully we will find one. Oof. This wind is horrible. Apparently I've been told I have 6 minutes to find a crowned crane. Now let's hope this bird doesn't fly on our left here, Arch. Now it is one of the more common birds around, but they don't often sit this nicely from this close. So you can really get a big zoom in on him. The lilac-breasted roller. Sorry, it's not a crown crane, Carol, but it just didn't look like it was going to move. So nice, always to see lilac-breasted rollers. Okay, Arch, we need to find a crane, and I'm keeping my eye open, looking out in the distance. It's a great area for crown cranes, actually. If we weren't on a raised road, we wouldn't even be driving through here. We would be stuck. But it sounds like James has found one of our very well-known, almost, you could say, celebrity couples of Djuma.
Well, we've got one half of the celebrity couple. There is Mr. or Mrs. Wahlberg in the Wahlberg's Eagle's Nest. She's just making some minor modifications to the house. She's opened it up, opened the shutters, taken the sheets off the furniture, dusted the piano, and now she's waiting in the nest. But very distressingly, on the tree away from here is another Wahlberg's eagle that is not a pale-form Wahlberg's. Now, as far as I remember, they did not manage to raise a youngster last year. And so, that thing there, can you see it there, Dov? Is either the new lover of Mrs. Wahlberg here, or a juvenile that's just tagged along for the ride and is hoping that maybe she'll take him on. But Mr. Wahlberg, the pale form, is nowhere to be seen. Has there been a divorce? Has there been a tragedy? Has there been some kind of cuckolding? Who knows? But the soap opera of the Wahlberg's Eagles of Wahlberg's Eagles Nest Road has just begun afresh for the 2018-19 summer season. Thank you, Kirsten. She provided a little bit of soundtrack. Dun, 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 she said. I think that's rather more horror than soap opera. It's really very interesting. So I don't know where the other pale form is. The brown one does look a little bit juvenile. Doesn't look quite like it's got its adult plumage. But they did not raise one last year. So that is a stranger. Yeah, Martini, you say Mrs. Wahlberg is trying to have her cake and eat it at the same time. Well, at the moment she's succeeding. She's got herself a young buck, a young, vigorous male. He actually looks quite confused. Like he doesn't really know what to do. Maybe he finds the furnishings a little old-fashioned in her home. Maybe he'd like something a little bit more modern, less antique and more IKEA. Oh well, time will tell what happens here. If she keeps him, tosses him out. Right, we're going to ponder these things. We head home for breakfast. Let's go back across to Jamie to guess what? Guess what she's got, everyone. Guess? Have a guess.
Right down to the wire, look who's up and about and wide awake. So what a way to finish off what has been a truly lovely sunrise safari. Waffles got up, she's uncomfortable and she's hot, and she tried to move further into the shade. Look how tiny its head is compared to hers. It's ridiculous. Its head's the same size as her ears. And Waffles has got not the biggest hyena ears in the world. How special. Well done, Waffles. It was really well timed because they're probably going to go back and settle into suckle once she gets her comfortable. Oh, I'm getting her ear chewed. Once she gets comfortable, they're going to settle in. Hey, you two. You are too cute. You really are. In a sort of wrinkly way. Wrinkly, wobbly, very concerned looking way. There we go. Our tatty ear. Always the first to explore. Always the first to enjoy a little bit of outside den time. You can just see their little heads sticking up. Not going to keep our eyes off them for too long since we waited for this moment. But, as I said, unfortunately right down to the wire. This afternoon I'm going to go and see those jackal pups, so one reason to join us for the sunset safari, but there are lots of different reasons to do so. However, for now we have reached the end of our sunrise safari. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing these special moments with all of you. I'm glad that right at the last minute you got to see the little wafflets out and about and enjoying their day, as I hope you all enjoy your day or night wherever you happen to be. We'll see you later.